The time is now 7:03, and I would like to call the Beloit City Council meeting to order at this time. First order of business is roll call.
All councilors are present.
Second order of Pledge of Allegiance. May we all stand, please? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Third order is special orders of the day and announcements. We have none this evening. Public hearings, none. Public comments. At this time, we've reached a point on the agenda where citizens may come forward and speak on things that are not on the agenda. You are limited to 3 minutes. I will not cut you off, but I'll give you a friendly reminder that you're approaching the 3-minute mark. We ask you to refrain from personal attacks on staff, council, and anyone else. If in fact you come down and do personal attacks, I will end your comments immediately. At this time, is there anyone wishing to speak under public comments this evening? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record. Second call, anyone wishing to speak under public comments this evening? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak under public comments this evening? Seeing none, I will close that portion of the agenda and move to item 6 with the consent agenda, please.
All items under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda.
Right now, the consent agenda consists of items 6A through 6I. Is there any counselor who would like anything removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion for approval of the consent agenda. Motion by Blakely, second by Duncan. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Consent agenda passes 7-0. Item 7, please.
Under licenses, we have a resolution considering approval, denial of 2017-2019 applicants for an alcohol beverage operator's bartender's license for the period November 24th through December 8th, 2017. There are 13 applications before you tonight. 12 of them are for approval. One is for denial per the recommendation of the staff in the PD.
Is there a motion for approval? Motion by Jacobson. Is there a second? Second by Presho. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. Item 8, ordinances, please.
8A is a proposed ordinance to repeal, create, amend, and recreate various sections of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit pertaining to fees. This is second reading.
Attorney Krieger.
As Madam Clerk indicated, this is a second reading of the ordinance, which just cleans up the language from the ordinances to require that all fees be set by City Council resolution. Later on the agenda, you will have the full comprehensive fee schedule to review. But the proposed ordinance does take care of removing those items from the ordinance and putting them in the resolution. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Motion by Forbeck, second by Duncan. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of 8A say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. Item 9, please.
Under appointments, the individuals about to be named will be nominated for a seat of a city board, committee, or commission. Each nomination is subject to confirmation by the city council. Approval of appointment will be accomplished by one motion unless a council member requests to take up the nomination separately, in which event the nomination will be removed from the general order of business and considered separately. Tonight, we have an appointment to the Board of Review, William Gibson, to a regular term ending December 31st, 2022. To the Community Development Authority, we have Merlin Knitzer, the incumbent, to a term ending December 31st, 2021. To the Municipal Golf Committee, we have incumbent Harry Wersgala to a term ending December 31st, 2020. And the Park, Recreation, and Conservation Advisory Commission, Joe Reinhardt, to a term ending September 30th, 2020.
Is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Motion by Blakely. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Forbeck. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. Item 10, councilor activities and upcoming events. Councilor Jacobson.
No report.
Councilor Anderson.
I'll keep it brief. I'll keep it brief since we got a long meeting ahead of us. But happy holidays, stay safe, and spend time with family.
Councilor Blakely.
I won't be quite as brief, but I'll do my best. Last Thursday, I had the opportunity to attend a tour of the community on a Beloit City bus, compliments of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee, led by Drew Pennington, our Director of Planning and Building Services, with help from Terry Downing, the Community and Housing Services Director, and others. We visited properties on both the west and east sides of the city, saw some of the improvements in progress, of which there are many, and heard proposed plans for the near future. So I just want to thank the members of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee, which the council just approved of, helped set up in November, for their thoroughness, and wish them all the best in their work as they move forward. Next, I know that our our Vice President, Ms. Duncan, always invites citizens to participate in some of our local commissions and committees. I wanted to put in a special plug for people who might be interested in joining the Equal Opportunities Commission, the EOC. It was originally created a couple decades ago, and it continues to be very active in the community. It fights more than just unfairness in housing. It's paying attention to all kinds of discrimination that people might run into throughout the community. So I urge anyone interested to come to a meeting and see what we're all about. Our next meeting is this coming Wednesday evening here in the Forum, starting at 5:30, and anyone is welcome to attend. We only meet on an every other month basis, so it's not a huge time commitment, and it's a very valuable service to the Beloit community. And I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and very happy holidays. That's it.
Councilor Forback.
Yes, I just wanted to say that the hard work is continuing across the street from my apartment on, doing the Celeb Beloit College building, and we love seeing people really restore and respect really city landmarks, so I'm happy to see that happening. And now, of course, right next door is going to be a restaurant, and what people of my decades would call the old Dreckmeyers, but it's been many things since then. Anyway, I wanted to give kudos for that good announcement. And then the last thing I wanted to ask was, Lori, have you filled all the places you needed for people working on our elections?
Oh, thank you for asking. I could always use more volunteers. This evening, you just approved 140,
Right.
roughly, and I could easily, for the April, especially the November of 2018, I could easily use 175 to 200. So
so-
absolutely, they can reach out to my office, and we'll
Great.
We'll
I'm
gladly take some
glad
more.
to know
Thank
that.
you.
Yep. Okay, that's all.
Thank you. Councilor Preschel.
Well, as as Clinton noted, it's the Christmas season, and I've been very busy with work and Christmas, because that's what we do at Christmas time. We sell things to people so they can celebrate Christmas with their families. So I'd encourage everybody to get out and enjoy the season, be happy, enjoy your family, don't get hung up on the material goods. And I would also like to remind everybody that I've been busy with the Beloit Janesville Symphony Orchestra the last week or so, getting ready for our holiday concerts, which were well attended. And it's a great resource we have here in Beloit and Janesville area, a full symphony. And we need our arts as much as we need anything, because, if we don't have a great quality of life, then why are we bothering? So get out and enjoy your families. Be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Duncan.
I had the opportunity to attend the Rock County Breakfast, the Appointment Review Committee meeting, and the Economic Development meeting at Nature of the Confluence. I am really excited about the upcoming building projects that will be taking place in Beloit. With the growth of First National Bank, Hotel Goodwin, the Velvet Buffalo Cafe, State Collection Services, along with some other industrial and residential developments. Special thanks to Andrew Yankee, our Economic Director, and the Greater Beloit Economic Development Corporation for all their effort and continued hard work. And I believe we have a presentation coming tonight. Also, I want to mention that Justin Presney, the environmental specialist, is leaving. His last day is January 5th. Justin, I had an opportunity to meet him, and he is going to be starting a new position in another state, but has been a valuable asset with our water resources team. Justin, we miss you. We wish you much luck in your new venture. And the Beloit Fire Department will have a retirement luncheon celebration at La Casa Grande on Friday, December 22nd from 11:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. The firefighters that will be retiring are Lieutenant Mike Agati, and if I say your names wrong, I apologize. The relief motor pump operator Willie Brown, Lieutenant Bobby Everson, Captain Scott Fisher, Deputy Chief Bruce Hedrington, Acting Lieutenant John Kemet, motor pump operator Brian Kizzo, Acting Lieutenant Russ Ludlam, and motor pump operator Andy, did I say that right? Is it Maul? Okay, so I don't want to, if I got it wrong, I apologize. But I would like to thank each one of them for their hard work and service throughout their 200-plus years of service. That's a lot, and so we truly appreciate that. And I'm going to also begin by saying I want to encourage citizens to please consider volunteering on a city committee. So I'm right behind you, Sherry. The vacancies are on our website. And then next, I want to thank our city manager, Lori Curtis Luther, and all our city staff for all that they are doing to make our city run and look great. Much appreciated. And to my colleagues, Beth, Clinton, Sherry, Mark, Nancy, and Kevin, I am so honored and humbled to serve with all of you on this council. We make a great team. And to all our Beloit citizens who are out there and you're watching tonight, I want to wish everyone a heartfelt, happy holiday, filled with peace, love, joy, and happiness. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to also take this opportunity on behalf of the entire council to wish all of our employees a very happy holiday season, Merry Christmas, get some rest. We appreciate, as Vice President Duncan said, we appreciate everything that you do for the city. The DPW, we know you're gearing up for whatever snow may be coming our way. And as we're heading into that season, please, people, be patient with them. And whether you believe it or not, they do the best job that they can. They do not sit down the street, I say this every year, and wait for you to clean your driveway out, and then they come and plow it back in. So they don't do that. But I just want you to know that that's not selective. That happens to everyone, but we want to make sure that we have clean streets. So we commend them on the job that they do. And sometimes they're up early in the morning and we're still asleep, and they're out cleaning everything. But yeah, they're not sitting down the street waiting for you to get done and then to bring the plow truck through. It seems that way, but it is not. The other thing I would like to do is thank the students for coming again. For the high school students, it's very appreciative to see you here and in true fashion. And I have to do this, and because there's only a couple times that I'm really noticed the city manager being a little nervous when we are starting a meeting. The first one is when her dad was here. We all remember that because her daddy was here. Her daddy was here. So tonight, as we're getting on the elevator, she's like, I'm really nervous. I got to go down to this meeting, and my son's going to be there today. So Curtis Luther, we definitely welcome you here to the meeting, and whenever you show up or anyone in the family, this is kind of what we do. We just kind of embarrass you because we can do that, and we're down here and you're on TV and your friends and family and see this, and then it's on YouTube, so they continue to play about how we really appreciate it and kind of picked on you a little bit today because that's the benefits of being the city manager's son. You get those special privileges. So we welcome all the students, but I did it to Julie Christensen when her son was here. And I'm a person that just likes to be consistent, so I didn't want you to feel slighted about that at all, so welcome. We also would like to welcome Sarah Millard, our Director of Strategic Communications, to her first meeting this evening. You're going to be seeing and hearing a lot from her, so we wanted to welcome her here as well. With that, that concludes the council activities and upcoming events. We'll move to the city manager's presentation. 11A, please.
Our first presentation is the Economic Development Update.
Mr. Yankee, please.
Well, good evening, everybody. This is the time of year that I have the opportunity to come before the council and give you a little update of what's been going on in the economic development world. I'm going to talk about some projects that we've been working on, projects that were either announced this year, are ongoing, or have been completed in the last year. I'm also going to talk about some of our strategic initiatives that we've been working on, talk a little bit about workforce development, some of the programming activity we're working on, and we'll close it out with some of the challenges and the opportunities that we see out there moving forward. So we'll start with talking a little bit about some of the city center redevelopment activity that's going on. A project that was very recently announced, we kind of highlighted this just last week at the annual meeting, investors meeting of the Greater Beloit Economic Development Corporation. But First National Bank and Trust Company is doing a major expansion of their operations center. They're going to be moving into the Ironworks across the street. Their employees will be able to transition between the Ironworks campus and the bank by going across the new pedestrian bridge. There's going to be about 95 people going to be working in the operations center. The bank is investing about $4.5 million, and they hopefully will have that occupied by probably by midsummer of this coming year. The other project that Nancy kind of alluded to, what was announced quite recently, is the Hotel Goodwin. And this is a complete renovation of the building at 419 Pleasant Street. It's going to be renovated into a 34-room boutique hotel. It's going to include a cafe and a restaurant. It's going to be called the Velvet Buffalo Cafe. Velvet refers to a type of red wine, and buffalo refers to a type of mozzarella cheese. A new kind of unique aspect and amenity that this particular property is going to have is it's going to have a rooftop garden and reception area for events, and they'll have catering opportunities out there as well. Again, about a 35,000 square foot renovation over a $5 million project, and it's due to be completed by midsummer. And a component of this project is on the ground floor. The Vision Beloit Partners, of course, have had their offices there for the last 10 years. We're going to continue to be at that location. We're going to be shrinking our footprint down a little bit, but as part of this building renovation, they're going to be completely redeveloping our offices. We're temporarily moved up to the Eclipse Center, but this slide kind of illustrates what the new floor plan will be looking like. We hope to be back in this space within the next 2 or 3 months. We've talked about this project for a long time, but the powerhouse, the old Alliant Energy generating facility, Beloit College celebrated a major milestone this past year. They accomplished their goal of raising $34 million. Their contractors have been in there, or Alliance contractors have been in there doing the demo work. Actual construction will be beginning in the short order here, and they're hoping to have this complete renovation done by 2019, and it's going to be the new student center for Beloit College students. Continue to see a lot of activity, of course, on the other side of the river at the Ironworks complex. State Line YMCA opened, the Golf Lab opened, Career Tech opened. Of course, we just talked about First National Bank and their expansion project that will be ongoing here. The Iron Tech itself, which just opened a little over 2 years ago, is going to be going through an 8,000 square foot addition. And there are other planning projects that are pending. And this particular facility was awarded a major state award through WIDA for the ongoing redevelopment of this particular location. Of course, a lot of us this last summer watched the development of the new pedestrian bridge. We supported this project. It was privately funded by the Hendricks family at $1.2 million. It was opened up just about a month or so ago, and we're looking forward to dedicating this to the public sometime in the spring here. Nancy also alluded to this project, the CELEB, or the Center for Entrepreneurship and Liberal Education in Beloit. The college is doing a complete renovation of 2 buildings here, the Houston building at 437 East Grand and the Hulbert building at 439 East Grand. Complete renovations, obviously they're doing facade renovations, roofs, skylights. They're going to be creating a 6,000 square foot new maker space. Basically, we can go in and create prototypes of new designs. They're going to do an expansion of Gallery ABBA, and they're going to have a new high-tech pitch space. And when you think of a pitch space, you kind of think in terms of a shark tank. And they're also going to be installing a new pedestrian elevator in this particular facility. The other project in City Center of note is State Collection Services, a kind of a quiet company that's been in Beloit for some time. They've been operating for the last 10 years or so out of the Ironworks campus. They currently have 250 people. They just opened up their new facility in the Eclipse Center. They renovated 42,000 square feet up there, and in the next 3 years, they're hoping to add another 250 employees. So this company will, within 3 years, have up to 500 people working there, and this represents about a $2 million investment. So if we transition a little bit to industrial development, Pratt Industries, a project that we announced a couple years ago, they had an ongoing need to have a facility to do some storage of warehousing of materials. They took a short-term lease of 43,000 square feet on a facility in South Beloit at 4732 Prairie Hill Road. Not a major expansion, but again, it helps this company continue to be competitive. The largest economic development project that we've been tracking for a number of years, and quite frankly, this is still the largest project in the state of Wisconsin, is the Riverside Energy Project. Of course, Alliant Energy is building a brand new power generation facility here. It's about a $750 million investment, 200 to 300 construction jobs, and it's on track, it's on schedule. It should be open and operational no later than 2020. Hendricks Commercial Properties, about this time last year, we announced that Phase 1 was completed, and Toledo Molding and Die had occupied the first 110,000 square feet. Hendricks Commercial Properties, which owns this site and this facility, they've announced that they're going to start work on the second phase of this project, which will entail a second 110,000 square foot building, and they're hoping to start that construction in the spring of the coming year. Assuming they are able to attract a tenant or tenants for that space, they hope to keep on continuing. They could build a third building, possibly a fourth building. They have room to accommodate up to 210,000 square feet of development at this site. Staples, our first major project in the Gateway Business Park, they did a pretty significant expansion project. It wasn't on site, it was off site. They took a long-term lease in the Alcoa building. They're leasing 142,000 square feet in that facility. There's going to be 8 people working in that location, and what's kind of significant about this project is 1 Reynolds Drive, or the old Alcoa building, which has been vacant for a long, long time. With this particular project, that building is about 85% full at this point in time. True Septics, a new food processing company. They opened up at 2924 Wyatt Drive. They took the old ADM Wild Aseptics building, and they're going to produce aseptic products there, juices and other types of foods. This is about a $9.4 million project. They're going to create up to 40 jobs when they're fully operational, and we help support this project through the Greater Beloit Economic Development Corporation in providing them with a $100,000 loan to help them with their initial operating capital needs. Project to note in South Beloit, Western Thermal Processing. They bought the property at 483 Gardner Avenue. They transitioned from another community in Illinois, and they're doing thermal processing and other types of applications, and they've got 37 people working in that operation. Had quite a bit of activity for commercial and retail activity as well. Of course, G5 Brewing, another project that we announced about this time last year. It's going to be Beloit's first micro brewery. And of course, they're going to have a restaurant and a bar and a beer garden. They started construction on this site out in the Gateway Business Park. They're underway. I talked to the owner-developer today. They hope to be open by May. KDM Hospitality. This is the new proposed Holiday Inn Express, a new hotel. It's going to be 6 stories, 84,000 square feet, 124 rooms. This is going to be at the old Wicks lumber site. We were hoping they were going to start construction on this project this year. They ran into a couple of challenges, so now they're looking to do a spring construction. And since there's surplus property associated with this site, there's going to be some outlot opportunities for additional infill development moving forward. We did break ground on another hotel project, though. Beloit Hotel Group started construction on the Hilton Home 2 extended stay facility. This is 102 rooms, 64,000 square feet. It's adjacent to the current Hampton Inn. Again, there's some surplus land associated with this site, so there's going to be some future opportunities for some outlot development as well. So again, this is under construction. In the Milwaukee Road corridor area, we had 2 new major retail tenants come in, Dunkin' Donuts and Firehouse Subs. It was kind of a subtle project, but quite frankly, rather significant. But the Beloit Walmart Supercenter went through a major external and internal renovation. They invested close to $1 million in this particular project. So, transitioning into residential development, we continue to see activity across the board, single-family, multifamily, condominiums. Also assisted living, this project on Cranston Road, Willowwick Assisted Living. They've completed construction on this 13,000 square foot facility. It was about a $2 million investment, 26 beds. Again, construction is complete. They're waiting for their final licensing. I was told recently that they've actually got pre-commitments for 3/4 of the units. So this is looking to be a pretty promising project as well. Single family continues to develop, particularly out in Gateway. New Leaf Construction is looking to finalize the third component of their third subdivision here. So hopefully part of Phase 3 will see 22 lots built out here over the course of the next 2 or 3 years. Hawks Ridge Apartments had a lull in activity here during the recession, but this past summer they started construction on one new building. It's going to contain 58 units. We're estimating the assessed value to be a little over $11 million. And if you drive out there in Gateway, you notice that construction is underway in this project. On the north side, Cadillac Condos. There are 4 buildings for this project that are under construction. It's going to include 18 total units, and it's just over 28,000 square feet, and again, under construction. Infrastructure does support economic development, so I want to point out just a couple highlights here. Out in Gateway, Rock Energy Cooperative has, they're getting close to completing their new town hall substation. This is about a $2 million investment. It's going to create additional capacity and support for the entire Gateway Business Park. And again, we hope they're going to energize this facility by the end of the year here. The next phase of major infrastructure in the Gateway area that we're going to be responsible for is Town Hall Road reconstruction. This is going to be a brand new urban section from Gateway Boulevard in the north to the UP rail line on the south. It's going to involve new curbs, gutters, cross-section, surfacing, and again, construction is expected to begin in the spring. We've been following the expansion of the I-3990 interstate for some time. We can announce that it is fully funded. It's under construction. They'll be doing some work yet through the end of the month, and they'll restart construction in earnest in the spring. And we had a public meeting with the I-90 Business Connection and some members of the public, and the WISDOT officials are telling us that this project should be completed by 2022, but of course, weather and other delays, it could be pushed back a little bit further. A few strategic initiatives I just wanted to touch upon. The Greater Beloit Economic Development Corporation, we hired Bellmark and Associates from Beloit College to update our retail leakage analysis. This basically is a study to tell us where there are opportunities for additional retail development in the city. We've known for some time that we have a lot of leakage. Unfortunately, we still see leakage occurring, but unfortunately, this provides us with an opportunity to tell a story that there are opportunities for more retail development. GBDC was involved in the early planning stages in support of the Nature at the Confluence project. Of course, that was under construction last spring into the summer, and that facility was dedicated just June 15th of this year. The Beloit Casino project is starting to get a little bit more energy, actually a lot more energy behind it. The project is back on track. Lori and representatives from the Ho-Chunk Nation took 2 trips out to Washington to lobby for this project. We're anticipating that this will be published in the Federal Register sometime in the first quarter of next year. We hope that will be followed up by a public hearing in 2018. The governor should be reviewing it in 2019, and if we stay on track, this project could be under construction by 2022. And I think Lori wanted to mention an announcement that we just learned about today.
Thank you. I would like to point out that both the council president and our vice president have been able to accompany me on these trips to Washington, D.C. to lobby collectively on this effort. And individuals with the Ho-Chunk Nation had requested that the city host or co-host a press conference with them this Thursday at 1 o'clock at the Nature of the Confluence right here close to our border in South Beloit. They have new information about the scope of their project, the total number of jobs that would be created, and other economic impacts that they will be sharing, and we will be there to assist them. So we welcome you to come to the press conference on Thursday where more information will be available.
So another project that we were supported this last year was the master plan development for the Beloit Memorial High School. Not only did we put that plan together in a matter of a few months, but the Beloit School District actually approved Phase 1, which is construction of the new Welcome Center, which is scheduled to start construction here this year and hopefully will be open and be ready for the public to utilize and access by about this time next year. Need to talk a little bit about workforce development. Our two digital platforms continue to get traction, attention, and page views. Jobs in Rock County basically is a job posting site, and Inspire Rock County is an opportunity for students, parents, and employers to be able to network, share information, and for the people to learn more about the job opportunities that exist out there in the marketplace. Again, about this time last year, we announced the beginning of our Community Concierge program. We celebrated our first year of our pilot program. We hired Maggie Littlefield, who continues to provide these services. This is an investor-driven program, but Maggie's out there giving community tours, showing homes, and telling the story of Beloit, why an individual should not only take a job here in Beloit, but live in Beloit, buy a home in Beloit. And I'm not going to go through all the metrics here, but here are some of the metrics, some of the findings, some of the challenges and the opportunities that Maggie's run into in working with some of these clients. Another initiative that the Economic Development Corporation has been working on is the possibility of developing an anaerobic digester. We have a lot of food processors in the greater Beloit area, and those food processors create a great deal of biomass waste, which they're currently trucking and landfilling, which creates a cost point for them. So what we're considering is there a way to take this bio waste, put it into a digester, convert that material into biogas, and then sell the biogas back into the marketplace. Potentially a win-win situation for the businesses. They can save money on not having to landfill their materials. They can get points for obtaining their sustainability goals, and it could be an opportunity for the city of Beloit to develop a revenue stream as well. A couple points on marketing. We continue with our focused and targeted marketing campaign towards the Chicago market. We advertise in a few publications, Chicago Industrial Properties, as well as State Line Business Journal. In the Gateway Business Park, one of the most critical tools that we have available are our real estate signs. We have 14 signs out there. We're replacing all of those signs. They should be actually completely replaced by the end of January. We also saw a surprising amount of earned media or free unexpected media. This is an article that appeared in the Badger Institute magazine here about a month ago. And the article just sort of talks about how the business environment in Illinois continues to decline and how the business environment in Wisconsin continues to improve. And if you take a look at this little box here in the lower left-hand corner, it lists about 18 companies that in the last 4 or 5 years have transitioned from Illinois to Wisconsin. And what's unique is 4 of these companies actually located here in the city of Beloit. So we continue to see companies calling us, looking at opportunities to locate from northern Illinois to Beloit. Another earned media, MSNBC had a major video clip. I can't show it to you tonight, but it's great to get that attention. And then just last week, this particular article on the 25 fastest, 25 communities adding the most jobs, listed the Beloit-Janesville region as being number 25 for gaining jobs. So a significant notoriety there, if you will. A few programming updates to talk about. Our commercial industrial loan program, we have 3 active loans. We have just over $128,000 lent out, and funds available to be lent to new programs, just over $67,000. And then just a few economic indicators. This is the Rock Ready Index. As you can imagine, as the national economy improves, so does our regional and local economy. Not going to read the metrics here, but when you see the arrows going down, we want to see those arrows go in that direction. When they're going up, that's the direction we'd like to see there too. We've seen a lot of permit activity. I highlighted in a lot of that, but we've had 900 building permits issued this year with a value of over $21 million. Our goal was $20 million, so we're actually ahead of our own projections and goals. I always show this chart towards the end of my presentation. It's our unemployment rate. It's kind of why we do what we do. But note that our most recent, although the ranking hasn't changed a whole lot, we're ranked number 3rd. Which is better than being number 1 or number 2. Historically, we usually are number 1 or number 2. But overall, the unemployment rate is remarkably low at 3.6%. Now, that's not going to last forever, but it could even go down further. We still have, obviously, challenges in the community, but I've been following these metrics for a long time. I've never seen this number quite so low. So, again, not going to read all these metrics, but these are the projects that we have been following since we started collecting this data back in 1999, as well as the projects that we have that we're following and monitoring for this particular year. And then kind of to wrap things up just a little bit here, Visit Beloit did their Destination Next community survey. And one kind of interesting takeaway is in that survey, they were asked what the most relative importance activity was. That was economic development. And their perceived performance of economic development was ranked number 1 as well. So I think it's a rather small sample. About 200 people were surveyed, but I think it shows that the community still feels that economic development is important. And I think they feel that you're doing a pretty good job when it comes to doing economic development. There are, of course, still some challenges and opportunities. They're kind of unique in that they're one and the same. The two that I'll hit on as I close here is workforce. Workforce continues to be a major challenge. I would argue it's actually reaching a crisis in so much that we have companies that are having a very difficult time in filling positions. You're going to continue to see companies being more and more creative. I have in this particular slide this image of the advertising that Treehouse, a company that's down in South Beloit, did on our buses. The text on the right-hand column, this was actually a full-page ad that Treehouse took out in last week's Beloit Daily News. It's kind of put in the context of thanking the community, but really it's a guerrilla marketing effort to try to recruit more workers. We're finding for entry-level positions, we've had reports from some companies that they're seeing up to and above 40% turnover. And these are jobs that are starting at $16 an hour, and if you stay there for 6 months or more, you could be making $19 an hour. It's not the most glamorous work in the world. It might be second shift, but the point I'm trying to make here is our companies are hungry to attract and retain workers.
Andrew, if I can ask on that question, where are they advertising?
Well, look at here. They're advertising on buses.
Just on the buses?
They're taking out full-page ads. They're taking out classified ads. They're using jobs in Rock County. Companies are just being much, much more creative because they have to be more creative today. Answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the last challenge and opportunity is we have very, very little inventory when it comes to quality industrial warehouse space. We've got maybe 50,000 square feet. So I get calls on a very routine basis, somebody saying, hey, we'd like to lease 100,000 square feet or 50,000 square feet. I can't find that kind of space. It simply doesn't exist for existing space. The opportunity, of course, is we still have over 300 acres in the Gateway Business Park. That land is locally controlled, it's certified shovel-ready, and we're able to provide it at a very competitive price, and we're able to do in a very quick fashion. So those are the highlights. I'd be happy to try to address any questions you may have.
Just one of the questions that I have is when we talk about employee shortages, I guess, what are we doing as a city to kind of help the companies that may say, I can't find employees, I can't find qualified employees? What are we doing? Are we working with the school system? And I know at one time we were providing training dollars to companies, and the last time I was on council before, I was encouraging that if we could mandate and say, sending people to Black Hawk Tech, because that's kind of a partner of ours, we would keep people local to work on these jobs. But I guess I need to know, and maybe between you and the city manager, what are we doing if companies are saying this is one of the struggles that we're having? Is there a plan out there that we're working on to say let's kind of get the qualified workers that they need?
a number of initiatives. I touched upon these two here, Jobs in Rock County. We launched this about 20 months ago. It's a free service. It's linked to Indeed. Again, for those folks out there who are looking for jobs, they can find those postings here. For companies that have openings, they can post those positions on this website. So again, it's free of charge. And then Inspire in Rock County is that, again, that digital platform to try to interconnect job seekers and the companies that have those openings. We're going to, I can't talk about them tonight, but we're going to be launching 2 other workforce development strategies after the coming year. And there are grants through Department of Workforce Development for companies that are looking to do job training. I will note that enrollment at Blackhawk Tech is significantly down. And again, partially because it's such a strong, healthy job market.
And then the other piece, I know out by the Gateway and some of those companies out there, I know the buses, if I'm correct, the buses don't go out there, correct? I mean, and I know you'll probably get very limited ridership out there, but I'm saying if people are saying, I can't get a job because I can't get to work, I'm just a firm believer that everyone does not have a car. I mean, in this day and age, some people would say that's not true. Everybody has a car. Well, that's not the case. So if we're saying we have these agencies for you to go to, if they're in Janesville, if they're in Rockford, some individuals may not be able to get there. So I'm one that's saying let's eliminate all the possible reasons why people may say I can't apply for a particular job or career. I just want to make sure the city is being proactive in helping residents of the city first, but doing and exhausting all our options. If Blackhawk Tech's enrollment is down, is there something we can do to say we can help you increase enrollment, but here's another opportunity that you can partner with us or something? I don't know, but it just kind of concerns me when we say, companies are saying we can't find the workers, because to me, that's a red flag, that they could one day jump up and say, well, we're going to leave because we can't find the workers here. Then we have an empty spaces and we have all this money that the city is losing. So hopefully we can be on the proactive end now that we know this is what they're saying.
I can tell you, though, the workforce shortage issue is not unique to Beloit or Rock County. It's a national issue. However, there is that threat that if companies can't get workers, maybe not only leaving Wisconsin and the Midwest, they might have to offshore. You might see some of those pressures.
Okay.
One of the difficulties we've faced, and we're working collectively to try and find a solution, but we often hear from individuals that may be unemployed, that they're having difficulty finding work at the same time that we're hearing from employers that they can't find enough employees. And so where is that disconnect? And what we found is that businesses change much more rapidly than our education systems change. That is the nature of the beast. And if we could do a better job of predicting what kinds of jobs our employers need, then we could help provide the kind of workforce readiness tools in our schools and other resources. But we have to be far more adaptable and flexible, and those are things that are easier said than done. So I know that there's an interest in working collaboratively to address that issue, but again, it is very complex. So getting data from employers, helping us better understand what skills they're going to need, not just 6 months down the road, but 3 to 5 years down the road, so we can develop programs and then have our kids have opportunities to learn those skills in a rapidly changing environment. That is, I think, part of what has created this situation that we're in, where there is this disconnect between those who are seeking work and the types of skills that are needed for these particular positions.
The other thing, and I briefly hit upon it when I was talking about the Ironworks complex, but the opening of Career Tech, I think, is an amazing resource that's unique to our community. It's relatively new. We're not exactly sure what difference it's going to make, but it's an interesting initiative that I think can, again, let students know what the job career opportunities are in this community. Because I think there was a perception issue that there aren't any jobs in this community, when in fact there are.
And I get it with students, but we also need to look at non-students as well. But I just think, as to the city manager's point, there is a disconnect out there, and we need to figure out what that disconnect is and try to work with the school system, Blackhawk Tech, the city, working together to try to close that because I don't want to lose businesses, first of all, but then I don't want people here who want to work that says we can't find a work. Yeah, that's great, they're advertising on the buses, but if I'm driving down the street, I'm not necessarily going to read the sign on the bus. Where are we advertising jobs other than the buses? Are we in the libraries? Are we in the community centers? Are we putting information there saying this company is hiring? I guess I just want to make sure that we as a city is doing everything that we can, that if the business owner comes back and say, now, I told you I could not find workers, what are you doing for me? We can a list of things and say, here's what we're doing, and we've exhausted all our options, versus just saying, you know what, we put it on the bus or we told the school about it. That may not be enough. That may not be enough. Councilor Jacobson. Yeah, you were, but you just turned it off. That's okay.
Andrew, just on your unemployment slide, I couldn't read the bottom. Is that, I'm assuming that's in the state of Wisconsin? I couldn't tell what your source was when you said we were ranked 3rd, now we're ranked 29th.
Let me get to that. This is from the state of Wisconsin. I have a source. I obviously didn't show up on the slide here, but I
Yeah, I
do
can see it at the bottom. I just can't read it, but, so that's,
Bureau of Workforce Training.
okay, so we're 29th in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, if you'll notice, if you take a look between January or December 2016 and January 2017, it went from 6 to 31. They switched. That year, they switched from ranking them 1, 2, 3 to 32 to 1. So this year, where it says number 29, that's actually 3rd highest. Now, why they reversed that?
Reverse the order?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they did that, but they did that.
Okay, so we're still 3.
Yes.
Ranking is 3.
Unfortunately.
They moved the goalpost.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just, if you don't mind, I know we have other things to go. I was just going to tell you, I talked to an assistant manager at Walmart who blew me away when he said the starting pay there, he'd just gotten an approval from corporate to raise it to $11.15 an hour starting pay at Walmart because they weren't able to compete with their own other Walmarts in Rockton and Janesville because they were a different demographic, and so they finally got them into that. Came along with their remodeling, which I was reminded of their remodeling project. And if people have been out to Walmart lately, they probably noticed it does look a little different and seems a little more professional than I recall from past. Anyway, there's that. And as an old factory guy, I also heard and was confirmed last week that every welder that worked at United, the plant that closed on United Acoustics, every single welder in there got a job, and got a job so fast that it screwed up their plans for moving their consolidating into Tennessee. They apparently all the workers were gone before they really wanted them to be gone. So it's a sign of what our employment is like in this area. It's really pushing hard.
And it's putting pressure on wages to go up across the board.
And one other thing, just one other thing. It's really good to see that you're doing really good work for everybody in Beloit. Regardless of what others might say, I think you're doing a great job for everybody. South Beloit, Rockton, Roscoe, everybody. We all benefit from your work, and you can see it in these reports. Thank you.
Councilor Blakely.
Yes, I was going to bring up the matter of transportation needs for people, and then you, Kevin, spoke to that. I think it's very, very important for the city to pay attention to our transit system and make sure that the people who really need it, the people who are willing and can be trained or are able to take on some of these entry-level positions, have the transportation they need. So I know that in 2018, I'm going to make that a cause to help further for the city, and I hope that we will look into that more and more.
Well, and it's constantly, that's the topic of conversation with the committee.
Yes.
You know, to see how they're doing and if routes should change and all of that.
Yes.
Absolutely. So
Definitely,
people are
Nancy.
very aware.
And the more people I talk to in the community, the more I hear from people in various groups that they have very strong needs for an even better bus system and transportation within Beloit, and this is a little out of the realm you're speaking to, and also to Janesville for other business. Thank you so much for the thoroughness of your work and for your report this evening.
And I just wanted to mention, I didn't acknowledge the fact, but when I talk to companies, and I go and I visit 2 companies a month, they acknowledge that this transportation issue is a real issue. And I don't have the demographics in front of me, but Drew Pennington shared some demographics last week. It's a rather astonishing large number of Beloiters who do not own an automobile. So companies see it, we see it in the data, it's a real issue.
An issue, and I don't want to, and trust me, I'm not trying to, great report by this, so I don't want you to think it's not a good report, but when we say it's an issue, I want to make sure that if it's an issue that we're addressing. Because far too often, and I'm not saying with economic development, but with a lot of things, we say it's an issue. And year after year, it's an issue, and an issue. But are we ever going to address the issue?
So if I may, this is a subject that the expense for transportation is extraordinary. Our transit system, we just reevaluated our routes and implemented a new route system. And when you look at the demand and the ridership and the cost for each of those routes, I am certain that we evaluated runs to the Gateway Business Park area. But there are constraints. What I think is possible and what I have seen other communities able to implement are public-private partnerships in which you have your private employers who have the most benefit of having the employee with access to the workplace funding different transportation schemes, typically in far smaller, less expensive means, vans and other such transportation methods. And those are ways that I have seen other communities able to address specific employment needs and transportation needs. So I think an expansion of our current transit system is highly likely to be cost prohibitive, but I think there are ways that we can work in partnership with our largest employers and helping express a willingness to partner there for a far more cost-effective way to transport those individuals. So that's certainly something that we're very happy to work with particularly our largest employers, where generally speaking, the ability to fund that kind of a system is going to be more likely.
Okay.
And again, that was kind of the point I was trying to make with these companies being more and more creative and putting more and more resources into recruitment and retention, and their ability to work together and pool resources. I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think this workforce crisis is going to get to the point where companies are going to say, hey, look, we got to work with our neighbors, we got to dig into our pockets, and maybe we got to have a private transportation system to reach the workers that are already in this community.
Okay.
Not
Vice
quite
President,
there yet,
go ahead.
but
Okay, Vice President Duncan.
I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing, Andrew. I was at the economic development meeting, and I just want to say you were doing wonderful. And then what was really great about that meeting is, and I had saw something on one of the Facebook pages or something about Beloit's booming. If you look on here, there's all kind of projects that haven't existed before. So we are very grateful for the work that you're doing there. But in looking in the presentation tonight, it looks like we'll have a lot of jobs open. So I just hope that you will continue on this effort to make sure that we have a partnership with the businesses to ensure that Beloit people are considered for the positions. So I think we're right on track as to now we go into working with some of the workforce development people and the Black Hawk Technical College. I think we'll be on our way, but I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you very much for the report. Number 2.
Our second report is an update on the status of hiring practices.
City Manager, you're on.
Thank you. I want to point out to members of the public who are in the audience, we have a hard copy of the presentation. If you received an early copy of the presentation, that may not be the final draft. Sarah Millard, our new Director of Strategic Communications, is distributing a hard copy of our final draft, and I'm happy to put a final copy on our website as well for anyone who would like to see it. But members of the council, we're going to distribute now to you the final version, and that error is solely mine. I told Council President I really shouldn't be allowed to access our printer copier. I inevitably do something like this after staff has so beautifully teed it up for me. I would like to take a moment before we get started to do a shout out to the City Manager's intern, Elizabeth Kelly. She was incredibly helpful in working on the formatting of this particular presentation, so thank you very much for your work on that. I am going to invite to kind of come forward, if you will, Marianne Marshall, our HR Director, our Police Chief Dave Zabalski, our Fire Chief Brad Liggett. This is a joint presentation from all of us. I am going to kick it off, and we're each going to take a component of the presentation, and then we'll all be available to respond to any questions that you might have.
And before we get started, I would suggest that as we finish a section, if you have questions on that particular section, then we'll ask questions versus going through the entire document, because I would hate to go back to the beginning. So as each section is completed, call for questions at that time. Thank you.
Do I? Did I turn it off? Oopsie daisy.
There you go.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Okay. So the outline of the presentation this evening, I'm going to kick this off with a bit of background on our organizational culture and our values, so our community demographics. I'm going to hand it off to Marianne Marshall for an update on our seasonal hiring process in 2017. We'll then hear from our police chief on his departmental hiring processes and outcomes. Our fire chief, Brad Liggett, will be going through his current hiring process and upcoming hiring processes. And then I will wrap it up at the end with next steps. The reason why we're talking this evening about seasonal hires in the police and fire department is because these are the areas where we have the most immediate opportunity to address our recruitment and our strategies to diversify our employee base. We hire approximately 150 or more, this year 174 seasonal employees. So that is a large number of individuals we're bringing into the organization on an annual basis. We also have high turnover rates in our police department, and as I'm sure you're well aware, a large number of retirements in the fire department. So these are areas where we have a lot of positions that are becoming open and opportunities to address our recruitment strategies. But I think it's important to start with a conversation about our organizational culture. While I'm sure it was important to the organization in the past, for the first time, the City Council joined me in a strategic planning process where, in a very deliberate fashion, we have pointed out the significance of having a high-performing organization, which means an organization that has a common purpose and constant improvement, that we use employee talent and innovation and recognize leadership at all levels. And within that strategic goal, recruiting and retaining a diverse workforce that is reflective of our community as a whole is a very significant component. Within that, again, we focused on our police and fire departments, where particularly in public safety, it is essential that we have departments that are reflective of our workforce, and that certainly our values are those that recognize inclusion of diverse people and ideas. One of those initiatives, through our police and fire assessment processes, recruitment teams, etc., we are seeking to fill openings with competent and diverse individuals. I have our most current demographics for the city of Beloit here. You will see that we have a very high percentage of Hispanic or Latino individuals at 17.8%, 11.3% Black or African American, 4.5% that are disclosed as 2 or more races, 1.4% Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander, and a very small percentage of American Indian or Alaskan Native. When you total all of those non-white descriptors, 35.3% of our population is in a minority status. And that is a very diverse community, particularly given other cities, certainly in neighboring communities. What this slide doesn't show you are our gender ratios. When we get into seasonal hires, our HR director will have some of that information to share with you. But I think this is significant as well, because sometimes we forget that women, although not a minority of the population, still fulfill a minority of leadership positions in many organizations. And I myself am one of 13% of chief administrative officers who hold the position like a city manager across the United States. 13% is very small. And so I think it's important, and I am obviously very personally attuned to the fact that having women in those positions is something that we need to be cognizant of as well. When you look at the makeup of our department heads, we have 10 department heads. 3 of the 10 are women. I, of course, am leading the organization. And when you look at the remainder of those department heads, we do not have any other minority representation in that group. As vacancies occur, we need to seek to make sure that we are having diverse candidate pools and a broad reach to look at all of the qualified individuals who could be part of our team. Because as we all know, I certainly know, surrounding myself with people that are just like me is not going to be the best way to make decisions and help lead this organization. Again, we need diverse people and ideas to help us be the strongest organization that we can have. Having said that, I do want to caveat this with, while I think it is important to have a sense of urgency, it is also important to recognize that this is a marathon and not a sprint. And this is not going to occur overnight, but that there are certainly strides that we can make and outcomes that we can produce, as I think you will see evidenced in the police department, that show that we are making some really good progress in these areas. With that, I'm going to hand it over to our HR director, Marianne Marshall. She again is going to focus on our seasonal hiring. Again, an area where we have a lot of opportunity to bring in new faces each year. And I think that's one place, certainly, that we can show different recruitment strategies to bring in a more diverse candidate pool.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, tonight we're going to be talking about the seasonal employees. They play a very vital role to our success in our organization. This past year we had 174 seasonals join us. About 28% of them were new. So we have a pretty good healthy turnover, which is what you want to see. And yet we do have some trained individuals who are returning. These positions range from anything from park maintenance to golf maintenance to clubhouse attendants, lifeguards, swim instructors, dock workers, playground leaders, and camp staff. They are of all ages. Our youngest employee was a dock worker who was 14 years of age, and our poll workers, I guess the ages do go up with the different positions. Unfortunately, I did not do an age comparison on that. The statistics I'm going to go over with you today do not include our poll workers. The reason being is that the poll workers essentially come for one day. And I did not include our library staff because as much as I would love to take credit for their hiring, it doesn't really fall under me, and I don't think that's fair to them. So, as you can see with our seasonal employees, our male to female ratio is pretty well split down the middle. And as far as our minority candidates were less than what the city population is. For our new employees, we specifically focused on that. And you can see that the minority population of our new seasonals is at 26%. I knew this was the one topic that was of interest is that Based on our analysis, 12% of the seasonal employees have a direct family relationship with a current full-time city employee. So that was 22 individuals out of 174. So looking forward, what we're going to do to try to break down some barriers, try to improve the communication to let the citizens know what type of opportunities are out there. You'll see a seasonal recruiting schedule. We are targeting posting and advertising of our openings from February the 2nd through the 28th. We will hold 2 nights called HR at the library, working with our partners at the library. They will be on February the 6th and February the 15th. Both Paula Hooker and myself will be at the library to assist anyone with completing the application online. We will not be in a private room. We will be in the general area. That way, if there's more than 2 people, we can at least walk around and try to help folks. We are currently scheduling visits to Beloit Memorial High School and Career Tech. I do not have the dates solidified on that. And one of our park employees has generously offered to connect us with a staff member at Turner as well, so we can get out there. Our recreation staff, it will also be attending the Beloit Memorial and the Turner visits. And again, that's to try to get the word out to the young kids. Hey, if you're looking for a summer job, this is the time to think about it. We will be holding our first seasonal job fair. I did this for many years when I was employed with the Rockford Park District. It is very successful. It will be held on Saturday, March the 3rd, and it will be from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Rotary Center. The reason we selected the Rotary Center is it is on a bus route. Unfortunately, we could not get the library that day. So that is why we're going to the Rotary Center. Well, how it works is that applicants are encouraged to complete the application prior to the job fair. We ask that they bring an application with them. However, we will have copies of their application there. As long as you are there between 8 and 12 p.m., you are guaranteed an interview. So if you walk in at 11:59, you're going to get in front of somebody. Well, it's till noon. Okay. So it's 8 to noon, basically. But again, as long as you are there by 11:59, you will be guaranteed to sit in front of somebody and get an interview. I can honestly tell you, we met with our seasonal supervisors, and they overwhelmingly are supportive of this idea, and they're very excited about it.
I also wanted to just give you recognition for making the commitment. We're contacting the Community Action and the Merrill Community Center, Brother Dutton, the former Brother Dutton, where the Latino Service Providers Coalition meets. We're reaching out to those groups so that we can also help bridge the gap to helping get interested parties to the library on the dates that there will be active assistance in filling out the applications, and also to the seasonal job fair, so that more people can be considered in those interviews on site.
And if anybody has a contact that they would like to share, I welcome that. I have a list of some folks out in the community that I do share our openings with them, but we're looking for that to grow. So if you have, any idea, we're happy to make sure we get that information out to them. So I welcome that. There was some concern about how are we going to reach our populations that for some reason they may not be available that day. They may be a college student who's away at school. So what we are also going to provide is a seasonal Skype job fair. Now this would require the applicant to reach out to us so we can schedule it. Our supervisors will be upstairs on the 4th floor on March the 9th and the 10th from 3 to 7 p.m. They will be again, there'll be scheduled interviews, and that way we can reach out to those folks as well. It's the first time I've ever done a Skype interview, so I'm not real sure how that will go. But again, we're trying to break down barriers. We're trying to look at new and creative ways of how we can reach out. I'm sure the nice thing is that we have our new Director of Strategic Communications who's going to be able to assist us with getting the word out. We are hoping, again, that all of our new hire letters will be sent out between March the 2nd and the 30th, so we can know where we stand. And hopefully we will have all of our positions filled. The other thing I did want to let you know is that I did do a analysis of, there's always been concern about, our employees actually living in Beloit. And the statistics that I pulled today is that 84.2% of our seasonal employees have a Beloit zip code. So again, there's always room for improvement, and we're hoping that next year we can come back and start comparison of where we've been, where we're going, and where we need to go. Okay, do you have any questions?
Excuse me, as far as the advertising, where are you going to be advertising for the positions? Is it just going to be on the website? And I know that you're saying February 2nd, so I'm guessing that we probably have materials or developing materials now that I just need. Is it going to be in various parts of the community, or is it going to be one location?
No, it will not be one location. We, as with all of our positions, we will be using our local media, such as the Beloit Daily News and the Chronicle. Okay. We also do direct emails of the flyers to various organizations and individuals. And again, if anybody has any organization they'd like us to add, we're thrilled to be able to do that. We will also utilize a lot of websites that are free at no cost. As Andrew had talked earlier, about the Rock County jobs that will linked into Indeed. That doesn't cost me anything except for my time. We usually will advertise with Beloit College. Maybe we can get some of those college kids to spend the summer here. We also will reach out to the technical, the Wisconsin. I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact name of it, but Wisconsin technical colleges have a joint website. We will advertise on that. We'll actually reach down a little bit to Rockford, advertise on the Rock Valley websites.
Okay.
And again, we always are looking for new, and we really like them when they're free, websites and advertising.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and have a good holiday.
Thank you.
Good evening. Let's see what we got here. Okay. So the police department has been very busy in terms of recruitment and hiring over the last couple of years. We've hired, actually, since the Fire and Police Commission about an hour or so ago, we're at 24 new sworn hires in the last 2 years. We'll be up to 7 sergeants and 2 lieutenants promoted. And we've replaced, or in the process of replacing, 26 officers over the past 2 years through resignation and retirement. Civilian positions, really a similar situation. Again, I think Andrew mentioned it earlier, but recruitment in law enforcement is in a national competition as well as extremely local. It's very competitive. If you look at this, the numbers there in terms of our hires and promotions, we've taken a very direct approach to diversifying the department, both in terms of ethnicity and gender. You can see we've made some progress both in hires and promotions. Right now there's 50 other departments in Wisconsin that are seeking law enforcement officers, and that's just Wisconsin. We also are affected by Illinois, obviously, who's also looking for cops in large numbers. Milwaukee's looking for about 300 vacancies. Green Bay's got 21 right now with a number of retirements pending. Appleton 8. Janesville just hired 7. We currently have 5 vacancies at the moment after the 3 hires from about an hour ago. And we've been not at full staff the full 2 years. We've been managing 3, 4 more vacancies, and we could see a couple more in the near future. So it's been a constant competition. Our department and our city is in competition with everyone else. Our last recruitment, we've done about 13 recruitments in the last 2 years for officers, sergeants, and lieutenants. We have gone out of state for recruitment. We've done Skype interviews. We recruit out of state and across the state, again targeting diverse criminal justice programs. But in our last round, we had 5 offer letters on November 28th, and within a week, 2 of those candidates, both of whom happen to be bilingual, were gone to other departments. One more money, one family location. So even when we get through the process, it's still very intense. And they'll go to another department and say, hey, I've got this offer here, and boom, it's pretty tough. So we're up against that as well. We've done a number of things to increase our ability to recruit and retain, starting with the Fire and Police Commission rules, and we've amended a number of things to help accelerate the process without diminishing the product. One of the things we got rid of early on was the polygraph requirement. Most of my colleagues across law enforcement don't rely on a polygraph test anymore. It's not necessarily a reliable measure. There is no defined science to it. It's not admissible in court. And probably over the last 5 to 10 years, the quality of polygraphy has diminished. There used to be a national company that would train law enforcement across the U.S., and I used to supervise a polygraph unit in Milwaukee, so I know what it was. To what it is today is not, it's just not a reliable product. And what we've gone to is a more comprehensive psychological evaluation with a very comprehensive background investigation. And those have really produced for us the results that we need in terms of assessing the character and competence of the people we are seeking to hire and their veracity. We recently changed a rehire rule. We've had a couple officers that have gone to other departments and after a short period of time recognized that it wasn't such a good move, and actually this was a pretty good place to work, and we've just rehired our second officer this evening as a matter of fact. So the old rehire rule would have required me to send them all back through an original testing process, the whole 9 yards, versus just hiring them back after being gone for a couple of months. So we're able to take them and put them right back on the street. So that's been helpful. Again, we've taken recruitment on the road. We've been pretty successful with that. We have a couple of diverse candidates that were hired out of Western Illinois University. We continue to partner with them, and we've actually taken our written and physical test to Western Illinois University. So when we do a recruitment, we do it here in Beloit, and we do it down in Western Illinois within a few days of each other. And when we go down there, a person down there can take the written and physical in 1 day and be done, and then they can come up here for the assessment and the final interview. So I think that's we'll see future dividends from that. Like I say, we've hired a couple people. Many of the candidates that have gone through the process have gone through the written physical and then decided they wanted to stay and finish their 4-year degree. But again, I think are potential candidates for us as we continue to go down there and they reach the end of their 4-year degree and they know what our process is and they have a relationship with our recruitment team. Our interview process immediately involved the insertion of diverse individuals from the community, including fire and police commissioners. We had members of our local pastoral advisory team on our interview panels. And again, I think that was significant in terms of building public trust and transparency with our process. But it also, I think, provided a very useful perspective for the community members that were participated, because they were seeing, in a sense, what we were seeing, and they had some significant input and analysis of the candidates, and I think we found that to be very valuable. So that's been very good for us in terms of that process. We have our Explorers program, which is for long-term purposes. We're looking to create feeder programs with our local youth. Explorers program will roll out in February. We've already got the flyers out to the local high schools, and that's an opportunity for youth 15 to 20 to partner with the Beloit Police Department, volunteer much as an auxiliary to do events, swing traffic, high school sports events, that type of thing. And again, create relationships with us. We'll provide some training for them, insight into criminal justice, and they'll have an opportunity to evaluate if this is a career they're interested in. And if so, they've got some exposure, and we hope a feeder to, drawing them to our department. We've reduced our time from test to job offer to 30 to 45 days. We have a very fast process now. While we do post initially for about 30 days, once the posting ends, from test to job offer, 30 to 45 days. And our assessment and recruitment team and our command staff who participate in the final interview have put in a lot of time and effort. I really want to acknowledge their input and their commitment to helping us fill these positions. It's been very beneficial. I just finished about 25 or so one-on-ones with our newest officers over the last couple of weeks. And one of the things I ask about is the recruitment process, and almost to a person, what they really liked was the speed of it. And especially in a competitive market, we have to move quick to get good candidates. And even when we do, we still lose a couple. So it's a very treacherous road at times. And I think, absent any questions, what else do we have here for slides? I guess I'm done.
Are there any questions? Councilor Jacobson.
They have a very diverse criminal justice program in
Okay.
Western Illinois. And
If I may, we
President
actually.
Levy's daughter goes there also, so that's another focus.
She graduated from there, so it's a, top-notch school.
I tried to recruit her too, but then I got in trouble.
Yeah.
We
We don't need
actually,
another familial.
we've researched universities that have programs with more diverse student populations. And so that's really why we created a very strong partnership with them, because we knew that we had better chances of getting a diverse candidate pool if we would take the show on the road. And that is certainly part of the future recruitment process for 2018 for the fire department as well.
So are you seeing?
There are other universities that you know of that particularly can help us with those diverse pools. Those, if it's closer, that's better for us for a number of reasons. One, it's not such a big transition for the student, but also helping to control costs as well.
Have you seen a big improvement or success rate with that program going to Western and?
Well, we got 2 good hires out of there, both minority candidates. Actually, we got 3 hires out of there. So, I think it's worthwhile. And I think, again, there's no quick fixes to this whole big problem, but I think long-term, every time we go down there, we meet more people. We're utilizing some of our newer officers for our assessment and recruitment team as well. They're interested. They wanted to go along. Some of them, the graduates from Western Illinois. So again, if someone's going to attract like candidates, their peers, that kind of thing, that's a really good thing rather than talking to the 20-year police veteran who you don't really relate to. So I think it's beneficial. I think it's going to continue to pay off as people get to the end of their degree. And they know we're going to come down and do the process. They know that they can do it because they've completed the written and physical, which sometimes, scares people. So they have that level of confidence, and then they know who we are.
Okay. And then the other question, what are your plans for any upper management positions as it relates to having that reflect our demographics here in Beloit, or what it looks like?
Sure. Well, if you look at our, go back here a little bit, we've made significant progress there. We've got both in promotions to lieutenants and sergeants' ranks have diversified our pool. So the department did not have a significant minority base to begin with. In fact, from 2006 to 2016, there was no African American officers hired. I've hired 2. So we've already bested in 2 years what's happened in the previous 10 or 11 in terms of recruitment of diverse candidates and hiring. I don't know in terms of promotion, but I think when I came into the department, there weren't any minorities in a position of command or, above sergeant level. And we've done that, and we've also diversified our females in terms of promotions and hiring.
Okay. And
Jen?
Councilor Forback?
Chief, where are we as far as our salaries? I'm just asking this because I have no idea. Are we competitive?
Well, I think it's kind of a moving target because as we're in negotiations now, other departments have different salary layers, levels, and sometimes they're focused at different parts, meaning starting pay, middle range, 20-year pay. And I think we've already taken some positive steps to look at that in terms of allowing or compressing our salary for the retention in the beginning years of a career to get people in and then to help retain them. I think the the old style, I guess, if you will. It's a new generation. It's a lot of new phenomenons in police hiring. Would really be to place most of that money at the end, and the 18, 20, 25-year veterans would see the larger salary increase. So I think that's a change, not just here, but probably in other departments as well. And so we're constantly trying to compete. We started doing lateral transfers, again, bringing in people from other departments. And as soon as we did that, we got a couple of hires, and now Janesville's doing it. And other departments have caught on. So if they do it and they happen to pay $1 more right at this moment, we might lose somebody. It's very competitive.
Okay.
In good general overall explanation, but I want us to caution here because there are negotiations going on,
Right.
so I want to make sure
Yep.
that we don't
We have
get
not-
too deep
yes.
into the
Oh, I don't
salary
need to
discussion
know.
part here. So I like the general overall explanation. So I just wanted to throw that out there and kind of move into a different direction, especially since we have negotiations.
Right, and we've
going
done
on at this
nothing to
time.
compromise
Right,
negotiations.
right,
That's a
no.
general statement that I would have
Right.
told you before.
Right. I just wanted to just make sure, so.
I'm with you.
Yep.
Any other, Councilor Preschel?
Yeah, I was surprised earlier, about a month or so ago, hearing that we'd lost 3 officers to Rockford, I believe. And I thought, wow, it can't be very good. I thought somebody had told me that we'd lost 3 of our officers that had taken jobs in Rockford
No.
Police. Oh, it wasn't 3?
accurate.
Okay.
No, we had
But,
one officer that went to Winnebago County, and he returned.
That was the one that returned, okay. But anyway, I was, in light of that, anyway, I was going to say, would Windows help your recruitment any? Because, it's been 35 years stuck in the basement here at City Hall, and, it's bugged me, and it's bugged me for years, and you guys are in a very poor facility, I think, for police, and I want to know if that impacts your recruitment any.
I'm going to interject. I certainly don't believe the police chief would disagree with anything that you've stated. I think the challenge that we face is outside of some kind of significant private financing or new revenue stream, we don't have the bonding capacity to borrow the amount that it would cost to build a new facility. So I think that we uniformly recognize that that is a challenge for us. But outside of new revenue or significant other dollars, that is going to continue to be an issue because of the cost of a new facility. But certainly something that we have been trying to find new and creative solutions to. We certainly don't want that to be a barrier.
Well, and going back to this recruiting and hiring, how much of a priority do we want to make it, or should it be? And that's why I'm asking in this context. Because, we gotta, maybe we can find a way. I don't know. I don't know. I know it's very, very hard. But, if nothing happens, if it's not important enough. So anyway, does it impact the recruitment? Do you hear from candidate officers something that, I just didn't like it there. There was just something, is that something you run into as part of the recruitment process is my question.
Well, I think anecdotally, if you were comparing 2 facilities, could be an issue. I don't know that I could say that.
You don't get any direct
per
feedback
person.
about it. Okay.
Well, it's a future budget discussion. It's certainly a problem that needs to be solved, and we are working on conceptually how to potentially solve it. We don't have an answer right now.
Yeah, okay.
So, and just if I can interject, I think, Council Preschel, to your point, I think it is important enough, but I think there's other avenues that we need to look at, or other obstacles that we need to look at before we just make a decision. But I don't want you to think that it's not important, because even on council before, we discussed it. So it is an important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but how do you fund it and how do you do that? It's an entirely different conversation, but I'm at least glad you guys are still having that conversation. So what I'm hearing is it is important, but, to
Right.
pull it off in the next couple of years would probably be tough anyway.
There's
So-
no quick solution to
Right.
that problem, but we are most definitely working on
Right.
concepts to fix it.
Any other questions for the chief? Council Pressure, you have anything else? Your light's still on, so I don't know.
No,
if you-
just-
Okay,
The will, there's
all right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right arrow.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just to have a little bit of a recap to get where we are right now. In June, at our strategic planning and budgeting sessions, the council asked me to develop a recruiting plan. If you remember, we had a conversation regarding the process in which we knew that many of our folks would be retiring this year as a result of the potential benefit changes in negotiations, and some folks were looking at retiring at the end of the year to protect their current benefit levels. So that created a void. I can tell you, in my almost 15 years, it'll be 15 years as chief on February 3rd, I found it extremely difficult to recruit for members of the department that better represent the diversity in our community. And I presented this plan to the Police and Fire Commission and the Joint Police and Fire Commission City Council in August. And part of that included a rules change, which we implemented in early September with a first reading, and then late September with a second reading. One of the things that the recruiting plan brought forward was to start recruiting early. All the research that we've done, all the recommendations from the Professional Firefighters Associations, the International Association of Fire Chiefs, and minority firefighter groups talk about start recruiting early. Recruit in the grade schools and the middle schools before children have made up their mind in high school or have a different direction in which they would like to go. So that was a key thing to move forward with. The second thing that we discovered was what can we do to remove barriers? What things are getting in the way of recruiting a more diverse workforce? And we need to do a self-examination on that. And then finally was relationships. Developing relationships with our community partners and with the students that are a potential farm team for us in the future, and how do we make that happen in order to build our future workforce. And then for those candidates that are eligible now, how do we mentor them through the process so that they are able to compete for the positions that we have available. Overall, federal statistics, the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics, 252,000 career firefighters. This is a national problem. 3.5% are women, 6.8% are black, 1.4% are Asian, and 7.7% are Hispanic. It's a pretty poor representation of our demographics, but it's a problem not just here in Beloit, it's all over the United States. What did we do? I want to focus on some of the things that we've accomplished so far, and then talk about the roadmap to the future. All right? Are we perfect? Absolutely not. Are we making an effort? Yes, we are. And it's through those partnerships that I'm going to describe in the next few slides that we're starting to make some strides in making those connections and creating the ability to recruit that more diverse workforce. In going through the recruiting plan research, I developed some partnerships. One of those was with Hendricks Curatech. They were very interested in setting up camps that we would hold on a regular basis, more than one a year. We had an inaugural camp July 20th of this year. We had 19 registrants and 10 participants. They had hands-on training, firefighting and rescue, and emergency medical services. They had an opportunity to speak with firefighters, speak with folks from Black Hawk Technical College about the education piece, and it was a very valuable camp. We had quite a bit of interest, and then some of these kids actually went on to attend the next camp, which it was hosted by the Town of Beloit Fire Department. Here's some of our kids. Obviously, my recruiting chair, Paul Martin, he retired in September. Miss him already. He's coming back to help us out with Fire Explorers. He's going to be one of my advisors for the Fire Explorer program. So, looking forward to that. We held a Kids Fire Academy. This was in conjunction with the Town of Beloit Fire Department. We provided personnel equipment. They provided facilities. This was a total immersion program. We did middle school and high school kids. They went through morning drills. They learned, they went through morning equipment checks. They had morning briefings. They had to do reports. They had to do all kinds of things that involved the fire service. They had to understand the chain of command. They had to understand all the different crew components, and it was a very valuable experience for them. The goal of this Fire Academy was to recruit for explorers, get kids interested in the Fire Explorer program, to show them the kinds of things that we would do in the Fire Explorer program, including the things that we would do for camps. There are 2 camps that the Fire Explorers go to, and I'll explain that in a minute. Other things that we've done. We work closely with the school district on career fairs. Looking at exposing the students to just career alternatives. The idea is that not everybody can be a lawyer or a physician or a dentist. Some of us want to be city managers or fire chiefs or firefighters, and there are career alternatives out there that folks can explore. We're not only focusing on the fire side, we're also focusing on other ideas that connect directly with the fire service. For instance, fire investigations, fire inspections, code enforcement, emergency medical services, forensics, for instance, forensic investigations for CSI. There's all kinds of things that we connect to the fire service and the plethora of things that we do to do the job that we have. So we talk about all of the different things that we conquer in our job every day when we talk to these students, so that they understand that there might be some depth just beyond putting the wet stuff on the red stuff. All right, there's more to it than just that. Mentoring relationship. We have worked with the school system in providing mentorship for at-risk kids. We continue to do that. One-on-one conversations with students that are interested in the fire service or may need some help with homework, anything like that. We've offered that to the school system and to our partners. Dr. Williams worked with me, directly gave me some contacts. I made 29 personal phone calls to students that were interested in the fire service. And I invited them to our Explorer program. I invited them to my office to speak about the career. I have those kids in contact, and we stay in touch. And actually, I've assisted a couple that are interested in internships in the Madison and Sun Prairie area. So that's working forward to that. We talk about educational goals, what's required of you as a firefighter, and what kind of education you need to seek out, and then also talk about the other types of careers that are involved. One of the things that I want to touch on that I didn't cover in the slide presentation regarding the school district is that we had an inaugural meeting back in September with the school district on a program that is going to be a career track. What's going to happen is the school district is going to partner with Black Hawk Technical College to provide career track education for nursing assistant, firefighter, law enforcement, food service. There's a career track piece that they want to bring forward in the school system. So what would happen is a student would express that interest in their freshman year, and then they would put together a class or a educational track for them that would lead to a capstone project in their senior year with certification of Firefighter 1 and Emergency Medical Technician. Those are the 2 basic requirements you need for the Beloit Fire Department to apply for a job. So kids can come out of high school with those 2 requirements.
If I can interject.
Yes.
I'm incredibly excited about this program, and just learned that they're going to be kicking this off next year with next year's group of freshmen, of which, selfishly speaking, I do have an incoming freshman. So it's great to know that they're going to have these additional opportunities to get that initial training that's needed if they already know, or to dabble in areas as they develop that, rather than trying to determine that after they graduate. So this is a really exciting partnership, not only with our departments, but with the high school and Blackhawk Tech as well.
Absolutely. Many of the instructors, the mentoring and recruiting opportunity exists, and many of the instructors that Blackhawk Tech uses for this program are firefighters that will be moonlighting for Blackhawk Tech.
And when you think about it, a 4-year turnaround is not, a 4-year turnaround is fairly quick in the grand scheme of things. So that in and of itself is a fairly short-term objective.
Sure. Thank you. The next thing that we've been working on is our Fire Explorer post. Again, 29 folks were interested in the program. They signed up at a job fair, and I made 29 personal calls to all those individuals to invite them. We had our first meet and greet at Beloit High School in the night spot on November 14th. 11 attended the meeting. I had many other RSVPs that a lot of these kids work. They have jobs outside of school, and they weren't able to attend the meetings because they're in some type of work study program or work program through the high school. So some of them weren't available to attend. We did have an initial meeting and orientation with parents on November 29th. We had 5 attendees and 10 RSVPs with an excused absence. Our charter meeting, I had a charter meeting with the Boy Scout group in order to sign our charter and take care of all of the business items on December 11th. We're going to hold our first official drill on January 17th. Yes. Oh, that's a good question. The Adventure Exploring is a Boy Scouts of America program. It is not limited to males, of course. It is open to females also, and the age group is from 15 to 21. Children that are 8 or 14 years of old and have completed the 8th grade can also apply to be a fire explorer or a police explorer or a medical explorer. The Beloit Hospital, Mercy Hospital in Janesville both have medical explorer programs. So if you know children that are interested, that's a place to go. Obviously, the Beloit Police Department has an Explorer program coming up. The town of Beloit has a Fire Explorer program that's established, well established. So we're all competing for those kids, and I think that we've got a good place to go here. Now, one thing I left out was in conjunction with the adventure exploring, they don't just do firefighting stuff. They'll go do other adventure things. They'll do mountain biking. They'll do high angle climbs, and they'll do hikes and other things to pique interest with the kids. They'll also have the opportunity to participate in camps. There's one camp that occurs at Illinois State University, where the Illinois Fire Service Institute exists, and then there's also one in Oshkosh every year for the state of Wisconsin, where Fire Explorer programs go there. They work in station crews just like they would in a regular fire station. They have a fire officer. They have a career driver that's assigned to them. They'll respond to pseudo calls in the middle of the night and have to deal with a mannequin or a car crash or a fire. And they're graded on how they respond to those different incidents, and then they compete against each other in those competitions. They have it's a pretty cool learning environment, and really piques that career exploration piece. So I hope that helps. Our 2017 firefighter recruiting. I just want to remind everyone we had a 2016 candidate pool in which we recruited in September of 2016. Those candidates, we had about 75 candidates, which we brought in 15 through the entire process for interviews, which we hired in January of 17. All right. There were several candidates remaining in that pool, and what we requested from those candidates is that they resubmit their certificates and update their certifications so we understood what their qualifications were. We had 44 candidates resubmit. In the 2017 applicant pool, now we have 2 classes that are being considered simultaneously, side by side. There were 65 new candidates, actually, of which we had 43 show up to the written test. 48. 48? I think it was 48 showed up to written test. Those that completed the test, there was the ability to voluntarily provide us with demographics data, which is the first time we've done this in all of our testing, was to get that. We had our tests graded by a company that provides the test for us, so it met our national standards. And we had 6 female, of which 6 were white. We had 35 male, 28 white, 6 Hispanic, and 1 black. And 7 did not answer the question on those demographics. We had completed our application review this last Friday, went through all of their application packets. We will be looking for CPAT certificates, which is our candidate physical ability test certificates. We will be conducting an assessment center on January 4th, and then interviews after that. Excuse me, the January 5th and 6th for the assessment center. Our written test, we held 2 written test dates. The reason we did that is our initial date that we set up for our written test coincided with state testing for firefighter 2 and emergency medical technician. So we didn't want to interfere with those test dates and exclude any candidate that might be eligible for hire. Any questions on the recruiting piece? Other than our next steps are to do those interviews. I am inviting the Police and Fire Commission and community members to participate in the panel interviews. So that invite is out to the Police and Fire Commission. I've asked them for representatives to participate in that. Our outreach efforts in the recruiting process. Technical college system-wide postings. Each of the technical college system has a fire science program in the state of Wisconsin. So we contacted all of the fire services coordinators through the state fire service coordinator in Madison, and they make sure that our information gets out and is posted on all the job boards at all the technical colleges. We posted with Women in the Fire Service, the National Association of Hispanic Firefighters, the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters, the National Minority Update, Fire Alumni, which is a national web-based recruiting company that we contracted with to even advise us on the verbiage of our recruiting ads. Rock County Jobs, Concordia University, Western Illinois University, posted there. Beloit Daily News, the Chronicle, the city website, and then direct mail to all interested parties. Anybody that sends us an interest card or say, I'm interested in the job, when you open up, can you please email me? We did a lot of that also. One of the things I know that we fell down on in this particular recruiting process was our actual visits to the field. We were not able to make any visits to Western Illinois University or to St. Xavier University, some of our goal places that we were really hoping to get to, Milwaukee Area Technical College. We were not able to make those direct visits, but it is part of our recruiting plan, and it will be in our next recruiting cycle. We are going to start. We know we're going to have another probably six vacancies in this next year. So our goal is to start that recruiting process now. Shortly after we are done hiring our chief officers and the group that we're going to be hiring now, so that we have the opportunity to improve on what we learned this time around, and then also make those efforts to be out on the street. What have we done to improve our process? The rules change I spoke about earlier was to remove the education requirements above state required minimums. All right, our minimum for structural firefighting is firefighter 1, and our minimum for being on the ambulance is an EMT, emergency medical technician. So you have to be 18, have a driver's license, and have those 2 items. We did have education requirements that for college credits that we felt may be getting in the way of our candidate pool. We provide the opportunity to go to technical college, and we pay through our labor agreement for those credits. So it made sense for us to allow a new hire to come on with the basic requirements, and then they can attain that education afterwards. Providing application assistance when needed. We receive numerous calls. We are moving away from Munis as our application platform to what's that?
NeoGov.
NeoGov. Thank you. I couldn't remember it. To NeoGov for our application platform, and that NeoGov platform is going to be much easier to utilize than Munis is for that application process. What our candidates were finding is that it was difficult to navigate, and then it was also very difficult to attach certificates, things that they needed to show us that they had the credentials that they have. So we're looking to make that different. We also provided alternative test dates for folks that had educational, National Guard, or military obligations. And we're partnering with the Police and Fire Commission on observation and panel interview participation. Our chief officer process. We've got a lot going on. Right now, I have an assistant chief and deputy chief process that are going on. This was a national search. And I got some stats for you on that.
While you're looking for that, I'm going to interject
Okay.
To the council, for those who weren't in attendance at the joint meeting with the PFC. While some of the members of the PFC were very supportive, I think it is fair to say that it was not necessarily an easy sell to convince the PFC to allow a national search to be a part of the process. This is the first time this has been done since, did you say 1908?
We've not had an outside chief officer since 1908.
1908, yes.
As in 110 years ago?
Yes. And so the reason I raise that is because, and I want to emphasize again, this is in no way to slight the very highly qualified internal applicants that were potential applicants for these promotions. But in my opinion, by only looking inside for that length of time, you are really limiting any opportunity to even possibly get minority candidates. Now, that does not certainly ensure that process, and particularly when there are so relatively few individuals in the workforce nationwide as a whole, it makes it that much more difficult. So we don't know that the outcome will give us a great opportunity to diversify the department from a gender or ethnic background, but certainly bringing in people with ideas from other places does provide an opportunity. And I think that it's possible to have a healthy mix of those individuals who have come up through the ranks, and that's very admirable and something to be recognized, but also to have new ideas from people outside of our organization that maybe have seen things done a different way. And this gives us an opportunity with both the assistant chief and deputy chief to at least pursue that possibility.
I have a question / statement. First of all, kudos to you and the chief for getting that, through. But I guess I'm more concerned with since 1908, we've had a number of chiefs. I guess you have not been in this place since 1908, so we've had several chiefs in this position.
Since just to put it in perspective, since 1854, there's only been 15 chiefs, and I'm the 15th.
But I guess where I'm going with this is that, so we never,
There's only 15.
So I'm saying
Can you
that.
guys give me that job security? Sign me up right now.
But I guess what I'm saying that, so we've had individuals in the leadership position that never saw a problem with this. We
only do what I can do, sir.
We don't have to answer it. Because just listening to that, I knew when we were going for the national search, I knew that there were going to be a tough sell, but for us to have individuals in the position since 1908, and we're here in 2017, almost 2018, and we're moving people through the ranks, and no one has a problem with this. No one challenges it before now, when the community is often crying out saying, what are we doing for diversity in our organization? But nobody just says, hey, we should do a national search, because that's just the right thing to do. We do it for just about every other position. But I just wanted to put that out there for the record or whatever. But I guess I'm really appalled by it, that we've just been in that position, and we had people in leadership that knew this, and it's kind of like, all right, we're just going to roll on as usual.
Do you want the sad or angry emoji on that one?
Well, and in defense of staff, I want to remind the council that this is an area under the purview of the Police and Fire Commission. And
Right.
so certainly, again, I think there was some individuals who were very much embracing the concept. Others were not. And I think that it's just important for the public to also be reminded, because I think a lot of times the chief or I or you as council members are receiving questions from the public. And I think it's important to, again, point out the fact that the Police and Fire Commission has an extraordinary amount of power in the state of Wisconsin, unlike most other places across the country. And they do have a great deal to say about these processes. And I think we've seen a lot of talented individuals within our departments that have been homegrown. Clearly, we're looking at one. But I think that the limitation that places and the likelihood that we have self-limited our potential to diversify is what we struggle with.
Right, and I'm not taking any talent away from anyone that's been promoted during this time, but it's just a matter of, I think as leaders, if we're in that leadership position, that we need to challenge. We need to challenge individuals who are stuck in that mode and saying, we're not going to change. As leaders, that is what we're supposed to do. That's what the council do. We do that all the time. Sure. We challenge the city manager. We don't agree with that, something needs to change. That's our job as leaders. So if something is not right, we need to challenge it. And just for this not to be challenged up until now is just... Councilor Forback.
I just, if I may, just point out that the chief of the department processes have been national. I competed in a national process for this job. So, but the internal candidates for deputy chief and assistant chief have not been open processes. So,
right.
But for the chief of the department, it was an open process.
And if I can make a comment, just through my past work, sometimes it's hard to get a board to realize when you're opening up the top spot or spots to, total competition from outside and inside. Another wonderful thing about that, besides saying, okay, we're not very diverse now we're going to be able to open it up to diversity, but also it really, in a way, honors the people who are within your department, because what you're really saying is, I think those candidates within can compete with everybody outside. So, there's so many reasons that you want to open up something to an outside, but people need to talk about it and realize that it isn't disrespecting, anybody internally. In fact, it's really the opposite.
And I look at it as a positive thing, because even if an individual within the organization goes through the national search and still come out on top, what a great story to tell, that this person competed with everybody in the world and they still were at the top. So we keep telling you, we have the best employees. But I just think to me, it's just a positive. It's not saying that this person is not doing their job, but you also get away from the perception that we're only promoting people that we know.
Sure.
And so, and a lot of things is based on perception. But I just, okay, we're going to move on because Councilor Jacobs.
Yeah, I'm sorry to prolong it. I just think that, what I'd like to say is what we're here today is to talk about building from the ground up.
Right.
And we wouldn't have this diversity problem if we were more diverse as a whole. So even if we were promoting from within, then we would be in a better place now. So
right.
I'm happy to see that we're doing things, but I like the Explorers and I like all these programs, and I know that you said the national average is exceptionally different than what we would like to see, but the results is going to Western Illinois because we need more applicants diverse applicants if we want to hire people that are qualified and also can better diversify our staff. So what I would like to see is the recruitment effort focused on, so that if we do, and when we do, promote from within, because that will be something that we continue to do, that we're meeting the expectations, and then we won't be having this conversation again in 100 years.
Well, I'll still be here. Vice President
Make a
Duncan.
comment. I just wanted to say that I think diversity is important, but I also think that having qualified candidates is also important. So that's really the top of our list. And then also, I was saying in our earlier meeting, it's a bigger discussion to be had because it's okay to recruit and try to get people in here from different demographics, but how do we retain them? So that's a bigger conversation. But I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't think that we have the difficulty in retaining employees as some other organizations might have. Now, is that going to change for us in the Beloit Fire Department? I don't know. It really depends on the generational differences that occur and what is going to be important to the new recruits that are coming into the fire department and their career interest and what we can provide for them. We're a pretty busy little department, as you know. And it's a pretty interesting place to work because we see a lot of stuff, and the work that people are dedicated to doing for us, they get a lot of job satisfaction out of. Because we do help a lot of people every year, whether it's fires or EMS or hazardous materials or water rescue, whatever it is. We have those opportunities that are presented to us, and there's, I think that's one thing that people like about our community and our particular fire department is that they aren't going to be sitting around playing cards or checkers. They're going to be out on the street doing what they are paid to do.
Okay.
And making the quality of life of our citizens better. Again, going back through the chief officer process, there was a national search. The advertisement reached out to about 50,000 chief officers across the United States. The advertisements, we advertised through the same organizations that I spoke about earlier on the firefighter advertisement. And that national search got 31 applicants for the assistant fire chief. 16 were invited to Skype interviews, and 8 of those applicants participated in an assessment center on December 13th. We're going to have a chief's panel interview on January 4th. That panel interview will be myself, the city manager, police and fire commission member, and then we also have an employee panel interview that the chief officers, candidates will be participating in. We'll be moving 5 of those candidates forward for that interview. The deputy chief, again, a national search, 41 applicants. 13 of those, or 16 actually, will be invited to Skype interviews. And those Skype interviews actually started this afternoon. 8 applicants for the assessment center, probably in early January, with a chief's panel interview in late January. Hopefully naming those folks by the January Police and Fire Commission. We anticipate quite a few at least a couple weeks, 4 weeks of orientation, and then some ride time where they'll get to know the streets and things like that in the city. We did not have an internal candidate for assistant chief. We do have one internal candidate for deputy chief. Okay. Any questions?
Just one final question. I had two, but you did answer one. But as we talk about the demographics and making our organization look similar to Beloit, I guess we knew about the the minority firefighters that was going to be retiring at the end of the year. Is there a reason why there was not a plan put in place earlier to replace those individuals before they retired, or shortly thereafter? And the reason I'm asking, because several of us have gotten that question, early on. Well, you're going to have some retires. There's something you're doing to replace them. And we couldn't answer it. So I didn't know, as we go back to the individuals and say, well, there was a plan or there wasn't a plan, but we're going to do better next time. If you could speak to that.
Sure. We work pretty diligently on all of our recruiting efforts, and we have in the 16 hiring class minorities that we can consider, and we have I can't quantify those for you because there's no data.
Okay.
There was no voluntary providing of that data because of the way we did the written test this time around. So the 16 hiring class, we know they're there. And the 17 hiring class, we know they're there. So we're going through the hiring matrix and making sure that everybody meets the minimum qualifications, and then we're going to invite a group of candidates to the next step, which is that assessment center. Was there a plan in place? It's been a struggle for me, like I said at the beginning of my presentation, for the last 15 years on recruiting minority candidates.
Okay.
When I first started as chief, we were requiring 40 college credits, an associate degree, and Fire 1. Or 35 college credits, and an associate degree, and Fire 1. In 16, we reduced those, right? We started reducing the barrier by saying, okay, to apply, you don't need Fire 1, you don't need EMT, all you need is 10 college credits. That's all you need. And then while you're on the list, if you get those educational requirements, you become eligible for hire. So we had a 2-tier system. Didn't work at all right? The people we were seeing on the list were people we've seen before.
Okay.
Folks that already have the training, folks that have the associate degree. So that didn't help us any. So what we did was we decided to remove the associate degree credits altogether and just have one application tier, no 2-tier program, and we just went with the Fire 1 and EMT as the basic requirement, so that at least if we bring someone on, we can get them on the street, get them on the engine, responding to calls, and they're qualified. As Councilor Duncan pointed out, they're qualified to be on the street and operate as a fire EMT. Now, I want to point out that in January of 1989, I was hired on the Beloit Fire Department. I didn't have Firefighter 1, and I didn't have my EMT, right? We had what was called at the time an apprenticeship training program. The state of Wisconsin had a journeymanship program, just like for an electrician or for a plumber, they had a journeymanship program for firefighters. The city paid for my associate degree, they paid for my paramedic, they paid for me to go to school. What I came here with was my experience in being in the military, and my experience being a steel worker, and my experience going to Beloit College. That's what I came here with. So I was very fortunate to have those opportunities. Many others, like Paul Martin and Ben Smith, all had the same opportunity. And it would really be nice to have that joint apprenticeship program available to me, because it's an exceptional training program. What gets in the way is overtime. The Fair Labor Standards Act requires me to pay anybody going to college time and a half. It's not affordable anymore. That's why we're not doing that program anymore. So that's where the issue came in for us.
Okay.
So we have to come up with some other items, some other creative things, community partnerships where we can sponsor kids to go to paramedic school so that they can get those credentials before hire. That saves me an overtime, and it gets that kid marketable in any department in the state of Wisconsin. So that's an investment we need to work together with, like Community Action. Some of our critical partners, we've had discussions with them regarding Fire Corps. Fire Corps is an AmeriCorps program that provides training money for the local community. Community Action would like to apply for a grant for Fire Corps. They can fund up to 35 positions.
Okay.
And those kids can go out and do fire inspections and pre-plan and mow fire department lawns and teach fire education. And then they get training money to go to college.
Okay.
I think it's important also to point out that there are some very significant differences between the fire department and the police department. When we hire an officer in the police department and send that officer to the academy, that's a 16-week program. Is that correct? Roughly? It's roughly a more or less 16-week program. On the fire side, the paramedic school, for example, is how many months?
10 months.
10 months. So that's a substantial difference. We are pursuing some opportunities, and again, that paramedics are that's no longer a requirement to be brought on board as a firefighter, but we are required to have a certain number of paramedics on staff as a whole. And so that in and of itself does create some complexity. The chief is working with the Chiefs Association and in partnerships with the educational facilities to say, is there any way to shorten this down? It hasn't always been a 10-month program. Is there a way to get the critical skills in a shorter time period, perhaps a more compressed time period, because it makes it incredibly difficult to recruit those candidates or to make a offer contingent upon that successful completion. Those are the kinds of things that are certainly worth pursuing, but there isn't a apples to apples comparison necessarily, and I wanted to point out the distinction because it does make the recruitment and hiring process a little more complicated for the fire department.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the chief? Seeing none, thank you very much.
For your time.
I'm going to wrap up the last slide here. I just want to point out that I think we've made some significant progress, particularly in the police department, in comparison to prior year hiring practices. But we fully recognize and admit and are not trying to hide the fact that there's always room for improvement. With that, we will continue to remove barriers. We are interested in community feedback on ways that we can improve, and we will continue to report our outcomes, even if the data we may be reporting we haven't reached our targets yet. We will still report where we are, where we're headed, where we want to be. And I think just today we have around 50 candidates that are going to be brought in for the fire department hiring process for their next assessment piece of the process. And I know that there are a number of individuals within that current pool. We'll see how things play out as that evaluation continues. But certainly taking important steps to improve the status of the situation. And I think it's important not to pat ourselves on the back, but we're having this very public conversation. And I don't know how frequently that has been done historically, but that is certainly something that we are happy to do and will continue to do as we work on this moving forward. Thank you for your time to what we consider a very significant issue.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to thank everyone involved in the presentation. Very informative. But I guess I would also ask at this time to Mary Ann and the city manager that if we could at least have a presentation on a yearly basis about this time of where we are. I don't know if you want to separate it for police and fire, but I guess the other piece of that is I would like to know where we are as a whole, our entire organization. We focus on police and fire tonight, which is great, but I want to know exactly the entire organization where we are now. We didn't have that tonight. Is there a way within 3, 4, 5 months we could have a report on where the entire organization
What we will need to do is we will need to query our staff. We don't have a good source of data
Okay.
that can quantify for us the kind of information. That's why we did not present it tonight. So we would need to establish a reporting mechanism for each of our staff members. It would be optional for them to complete, but certainly would be very helpful if they chose to do so. But yes, we can roll that out and report back. And yes, Mary Ann.
Actually, the best time to do that would be
Which would be first quarter next year.
That'd be fine. And to the public that may be listening or that may be here, and I know we spend a lot of time on it, but these are the questions that we're getting from the community. So this is why we wanted to take our time and ask it. So it's not that we're trying to push diversity overall, but the entire community is saying, where are we at and what are we doing about it? So as elected officials, that's our role to sit here and answer back to our community. So I appreciate everyone's work that was put into this, because it was a very well done report. Thank you for answering the questions tonight and then even beforehand. So I'm greatly appreciative. And any other counselor have any questions? Counselor Jacobson.
I would just say that this is something I thought about for a long time, and I'm not sure what the process is. I know that we get notified when police and fire are sworn into office, but at an organization I'd previously worked at, we used to do that at council meetings, or even if it's not the swearing in, an introduction. It's, I think, unique to have police and fire. Their oath is a little bit different than the standard employee, and it's nice that because these are publicly broadcasted, that citizens and or possibly family that's not local could then watch it. We would be introduced, so would the community, to new police and fire. So that might be something to consider. We would have a real-time update when they're sworn in. I realize we're going to have a lot of swearing in because we are having a lot of retirements, but that's kind of an easy way to get their face out in the community, and that might be something we could consider.
And I think that's also a way to let the public know. But to me, that seems like an easy fix. I mean, I think that the next time we have sworn in, that we just bring them to a council meeting. So thanks for that suggestion. So, and the city manager said it's done, so we got it, way to go. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you all again. We move on to item 12B.
12A is a resolution
12A.
authorizing a schedule of fees, charges, and rates for the city of Beloit.
Attorney Krieger and...
I will try to make this as brief as possible.
Sorry, I apologize.
No, this is the second half of the comprehensive master fee schedule that's being brought before you. I did outline in detail the changes that were made by each department. The schedule that you saw, if the fee wasn't changing, it was just the regular cell. If the fee was changing, then we kind of highlighted those with a yellow color so you could see which ones have changed. Significantly, I think the most changes were with the planning and building services. What they had done was undertake a study of neighboring communities to try to make themselves more competitive with whatever other fees that are going on in those communities as well. And there have been sometimes almost 20 years had passed since that fee had been raised. So that's where you see a significant amount of the changes. From my understanding, the rest of the changes have really been kind of vetted through the budget process this year. Because of the massive scope of this project, it took a little bit longer to get to you. Normally, we try to have this on the budget night as well, but because of what we wanted to do with the comprehensive schedule, it just took a little bit of time to get the ordinance changes and everything to you. So if you have any questions, I know staff is present, yawning but present, that will be here to answer any questions if you have them. They can certainly provide their expertise on that particular fee if you have any questions. So with that, we'll open it up.
Is there a motion for approval first? Motion by Jacobson, second by Duncan. Any questions or comments? I think we had some, but I think they were answered earlier.
In the earlier session.
Okay.
In a very nice way, too.
Okay.
So there's a motion and a second. All those in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes 7-0. 12B, please.
City Council will convene into closed session pursuant to Section 1985, sub 1G, for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is likely to become involved, specifically considered possible settlement of Rolette Oil versus the City of Beloit in the case of 16 CV 940. You may reconvene into open session thereafter for possible action in the matter.
Is there a motion to go into closed session? Motion by Jacobson, second by Forback. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. We are in closed session, and I will instruct the council to please go directly to the conference room. Thank you.
And I think I have to recuse myself.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. Motion to adjourn. Motion by Jacob.
Second.
I'm not sure.
Second by Pressure. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes either 6-0 or 5-1. We are adjourned. Happy holidays, everyone.
We're supposed to be a setup.